Alright everyone, so now we know that how we will be able to run use effect only once on page load, so you have to keep the empty dependency. Now let's see one simple example with a dependency. So what I'm going to do, right, again I'm going to replicate the same example that you have done in the class-based components. So let's take a const, I'll take a count method, this I'll give set count, and here I'll give this one as use state of 0. So this is the initial value, okay, and then after this let's take a div, and here I'll take a paragraph and I'll render count is, and here I'm going to render the count, okay, so we'll be getting this one as 0, okay. Then there will be another button, so I'll take a button and this will be increase count. Now again what I'm going to do, right, so let's say once the count is 0, so that time what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the background color of this button and also the color of this button, okay. So now see, so here we need to take a on click and this will be our handle count. Let's give handle increase count, copy this and let's create this method. So we'll do function handle increase count, and I'm going to do set count will be count plus 1. Alright, so that means each and every time I'm going to increase the count by 1. So click here, this is getting increased, okay. So now let's say whenever this count will be 10, I want to basically increase change the style, right. So how we are going to do that? So in that case, one thing we can do, like there are multiple ways that you can do. For example, you can directly check here when the count is 10, then only I want to do that, but let's do this one in a different way. So I'm going to take here like change style and I'll do set change style, and this will be use state of false. Now again what I'm going to do, I'm going to now take another use effect. Now obviously you can take multiple use effect, no problem with that. So we'll take a use effect here. Now here you need to keep the dependency. Now here comes the trick. So now here you need to basically check that which dependency you need to keep to make some side effects. So in that case, because we are changing the count value, so here the dependency will be this count. So that means whenever there is a change in the count, this use effect will be getting rendered. So here I'll keep the count as a dependency, right, and let's say I'll log here count changes, right. So I'll save this, let's open inspect and see what is happening. So I'll click here, see count changes is coming, click here again. So this will be every time there is a count changes, this use effect will run. Also let me just quickly, I think we are logging some in some other component, I think we are logging some style, right. So let me just remove that from here, I think. Yeah, let me remove this styles console. Okay, so now what we are going to do, so we'll simply check that if the count value that we are having, if this is 10, so that means once this is 10, I'll change set change style to true, okay. So now first log this change style, and I'm going to remove this console from here and see what is happening. So now see, I'll click here 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and now click here, now it's true, okay. So what we can do, simply go to this button and then in this case take a class name, I think you can take a class name, or else let's do this one using style only. So I'll do background color. So here I'm going to check if the change style is true, I'll make this one black, or else this will be white, and then I'm going to change the color. So color I'm going to keep opposite. If the change style is true, I'm going to make this one as white, or else I'm going to keep this one as black. And here I'm going to take color and I'm going to do, if the change style is true, so I'm going to make this one, let's say white, or else I'm going to make this one as black. Save it. Now let's refresh this. Now say I'll increase 4 5 6 7 8 9, change, this is getting changed, right? So this means we are maintaining a side effect here based on this count. Now you can keep multiple dependencies, and based on each and every dependencies you can do certain operations. So this is very simple way that how you can run use effect only once on page load and on based on some dependencies. And then there is another one, and that is this use effect will basically return a callback, and this is basically work as a destructure. So this is similar as this component will unmount. So whenever component is getting unmounted, you can do certain operations inside this callback. Okay, so here this component is getting destroyed, component is unmounted, so you can do some side effects here also. Okay, so now all the things are done. Now let's start with our first API integration using use effect. So what we are going to do, right, we will be implementing a simple API caller fetch request on page load, and also we are going to do on button click. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this dummy JSON API, and here let's say I'm going to render some users. For example, let's see what else we have, users. So I'm going to get all the users here. Okay, so let's do here, and let's create another component, folder, and I'll give this one name as users, and I'll create index.jsx, close everything else, and create a function here, return a div h1, and this is users list. I will give all user list, and here we can directly export this one. So export default function users. I'll go to our app.js, and I'll comment it out from here, and then I'm going to render the users. So we will be getting all user list. Okay, now we are going to basically, what your task is, you need to render the list of users here, and you have to fetch it from a API. So this is the API, and this will give you all the list of users, and then you want to render the first name, the last name, the email, phone number, and let's say the birth date. So how you are going to do that? Now the two things you need to do, whenever you will be fetching the list of users, you need to store that user in some state, right? So you need to take a state first. So I think we already discussed that how we are going to take state. So we need to take a use state. So here what you will do, right, you will do users, let's do users list, we'll do set users list, and this will be use state. And here what I'm going to do, right, this will be array of objects, so I'll keep this one as an empty array for the first time, so initial state. So now your task is, you need to render the list of users on page load. So how you are going to trigger a page load side effect? So you need to take a use effect, I think this we already discussed, and you need to keep the dependency as empty. So this is will run on the first time. Now here what I'm going to do, right, first thing you need to basically take a method here. So I'll do fetch all users. So this will be a method that I'm going to write. So this will be async method, because we are doing async operations, will be fetching the list of data. So I'll be giving async function, this will be fetch all users, and here what we are going to do, right, we'll take a try block, catch block. So this catch block will handle any kind of error, so we'll log here log error for now. Now what we need to do, right, we need to basically first call the API. Now you can basically use any kind of like Axios third-party libraries, any hook, but we are going to learn first very simpler way. So we'll do const, here we can do API response, and this will be await fetch, and here you need to basically give the URL or the input. So in this case I'm going to copy this URL from here. You can keep whatever API you are using and paste that URL here. Okay, and then you are going to do const result. So you need to convert this one to JSON. We'll do API response dot JSON, and I'm going to log this result here. Okay, save it, and let's see what you're getting. So you're getting an object, we are getting the total, how many users and how many users we are having. So here what you can check, let's say you need to get this data. Now here we are giving this example, that's why we are checking users. For example, you are using some API, some different API endpoint, and there you are having some different key. So based on that you need to change it. So here what I'm going to do, right, I'll do if this result dot users is true. So in this case I'm going to set the user list in this method, the user list, this array of objects. So we'll do result dot users. So this is what we are getting right here. That's it. Else if there are any issue, so we'll do set user list as empty, save it, and now I'm going to log this user list here. So you can see that we immediately got 30 users, correct? And if I refresh this page, we will be getting the 30 users. Notice first time for some time we are getting empty, and then we are getting, because it's taking some time to fetch the data from API. So now what we are going to do, right here, we will take a UL. I think this we have already done, so nothing but we are rendering list of data. So you can check if this user list and user list dot length is greater than 0. So we are going to render. Now again we are doing ternary here, and this is what you will be using most of the time. So we'll do user list dot map. This will be my user item, and here I'm going to render a li. The first thing what you need to do, you need to give a key here, and it's always better to give some unique key. So we are having this ID, right? Each and every ID is different. So we'll use this user item dot ID as key, and inside this, let's say, and if there are nothing, right, if the user list is not greater than 0, so we are going to render a h1 that no users found, please try again. If you want, you can also render null here, but this is also fine. Now here I want to render, let's say, the username user item dot first name space, and I'll give here user item dot last name, because this is what we are having. Now let's save it and let's see what is happening. So you can see that we are getting the list of data. Refresh this page. See, for first time we are getting no user found, please try again, and there is some problem that we need to check. Let me refresh this once again. Okay, I think there is some problem with my network. Okay, now we are getting, because there are some network issues. So refresh this. So you can see that first you are getting no user found because it's taking some time to render. So in that case, for better user experience, what we can do? So here we can basically manage some kind of loading state, that the data is getting loaded. Please please wait for some time, something like that. So here, to manage a loading state, what you can do? See, every time you'll be managing some kind of state, you need to take a state variable. So I'll do here loading, or let's do pending, whatever. So I'll do pending and do set pending, and this will be use state of false. And when we'll be calling the API right here, so here we can do set loading, set pending as true, and then if the result is present, so we'll do set pending as false, and if there are nothing, we also do set pending as false. Now here first time we can also do this one as true, that is also fine. So now what we are going to do, right, if the pending is true, so before this we'll check if pending is true. So I'm going to return, let's return a h1, and now in this case we'll also use fetching users, please wait, save it. Now see what is happening. Refresh this. See, getting fetching users instead of no user found, and then you'll be getting the list of users. Okay, so this is how you need to basically manage the loading state. So this is what we have done, and this is how you need to call the API. Now let's say your requirement is that instead of calling the API on page load, you need to call it on button click. So it's very simple. What you can do, simply create a method. So let's say we're having a button here, right? So I'll do button and I'll do fetch users list and then create an on-click method here. I'm not discussing all of this because we have done multiple times till now this on-click method. So we'll do handle fetch list of users and then create this function and then simply call this method here. Okay, so now let's save it. I'm going to comment it out for now. Now you can see that in this case we are getting fetching users, please wait. So I think better in this case will be, we'll make this one as false now. That is just to show you. So now we are getting no users found, please try again. Now see, click on this here. Now you're getting the all user list. Click here, you'll be getting the data. So in this case what we are doing, instead of fetching the data on page load, on button click we are calling the same method. Now if you want, you can also directly call this on button click, right? You no need to call. So let's say if I click copy this fetch all users, so this is an extra step, so I'll just comment it out, and instead of calling that handle fetch list of user, I'm directly call this fetch all users, this one. Okay, save it and now refresh this. So now I'll click here, so we'll be getting the same result. Okay, so now we have learned quite a few things, that how you can use state for state management, how you can use effect for side effects, how you can call API data on page load using use effect keeping the dependency as empty, and also how you can call API on some other functionality like on click of button. Let's say you are having an input and on type of input you also can fetch the data. It is always the same concept again and again, you just need to practice little more. So I think that's all for the basic two very important hooks. Now let's move on to the two more important hook that you need to know, and that is called the use context and React context API and the use reducer. So let's say how we are going to manage some kind of global state using React context API, and believe me or not, this is one of my favorite topic of React, the use context, and I actually really love the concept of this context API that React team has created. It's actually really impressive and good. Alright everyone, so now we are going to start two very important things, and that is use context and the React context API. Along with, we are also going to learn another hook that is called use reducer for managing complex state. But the first step, you need to understand why actually you need a context API or a use context hook. So in React there is a concept that we called here prop drilling. Okay, I don't know how this will be. So this is called prop drilling. I know this is very bad, but I'm going to try my best to explain. So prop drilling is basically when you have a multiple nested component. So let's say I have a component here, component A, then I have a component B, component C, and component D. So this is my component A, this is my component B. Please check this one very carefully. This is very important interview questions also. And this is component D. So now here, these all the components, although this component is interconnected with, so A is connected to B, so that means B is a child of A, C is child of B, and D is child of C. But somehow you need to pass data from this A component to D component. But the problem here is you don't have a direct connection between these two. So in that case, how you are going to pass data from this component to D component? So here the concept of prop drilling is, so let's say you have a value X. So you will pass this value X as a prop to component B. Then again from component B you will pass this X to component C, and then from C again you will pass this to component D. Although this is a very simple example, although you might think like, okay, this number of times you need to pass, but there are some very complex scenarios also where you don't have any connection at all. So in that case you don't have any options only to pass the data. So in that case we came into one conclusion is that you need basically some kind of global state where you'll be able to manage the state from one place. So this context, what it will do, right, this context API, so here you'll be having one main global state here. So this will be your global state, and then whatever child components that you are having, let's say this is a component, one more. So these all your child components, and then you are having your app.js or index.js, which is your main root component. So this is your root, and these all your child components, all the child components. Although it can be possible that these components are not connected with each other, that is fine. What you'll do, you'll wrap this root component into a provider that context will provide, and whatever state management that you'll be doing inside this context. So what will happen, because your root component is a combination of all the child components that you are having, now once you will wrap the context in your root component, you will be able to access this state, any component you want. You no need to do prop drilling. That means, let's say you need to pass data from this component, so you don't have to pass to this like that. It will not be chaining. Directly you will be able to access the data from your context. Let's say you need something else in this component, so you'll be able to access the data directly from context. So this is the concept of managing global state. Now in Redux also it is almost same. The only difference is that context API React will provide. For Redux you need to install a separate package and your store will be completely different. So that we are going to discuss later. But this is why you need the global state, or basically context API in the first place. Now first time this will be a little tricky, so we are going to understand this one with a very simple example, or else I'm telling you this can be little tricky first time. Okay, so you need to understand all the step by step what are the things you need to do. So what we are going to do, right, first we'll learn how you can create a context and how you can wrap your context in your root component. So this is the first two steps you need to do. Okay, now first I'll go here inside source, I'll create a folder and I'll give this a name as context, and here I will create index.jsx. So what will be your first step? First step will be you need to create the context. So here we'll do const, let's give this one name as global context. To create a context you have to use create context from React. What it will do, so you can see that this will create a context that components can provide or read. And here you need to give the default value or the initial value, and here you can give any value you want. For now I'll keep this one as null. So this is your first option. Now second, what you need to do, because you are going to use this global context in everywhere, wherever you need that, you need to export it. So I'm going to export this one. Now this is accessible throughout the application. Next step, you need to create the global state that receive component as a children. Okay, so here you will create, so we'll do export, or let's create simply function, and here I'm going to give this a name as global state. Now what this will does, right, this will receive the children. Now what this children, you might ask, this children is nothing but all of these components that you are having. So each and every component is a children of this context that you'll be receiving, because in the root component you will be wrapping the context, right, and root component is nothing but the combination of all the nested components that you are having. So here what this will do, this will return a provider. So what this provider it does, so this global context, if I click dot here, you can see that there is a provider, there is a consumer, and there is a display name, which is optional. This provider is provide, as the name suggests, this will provide the state, and then there will be a consumer will consume the state. So one is this will provide the state, and from component you need to consume, or basically you need to get that state. So here you need to pass this children. Now this will give a value which will be your state value. So for now I'm going to pass this one as empty object. Now what you need to do, you need to export this. We'll do export default global state, save it. So now this is done. So this will create a context, but will this work? Obviously not, because as I already mentioned, you need to wrap this context in your root component. So which is your root component? Your root component is main.jsx, where you are wrapping this app. So you can see that here. So what you can do, right, we can simply cut it from here, and now here I'm going to call this global state, and I'll see this global state will receive a children, right? Children is nothing but all the components that you are having, and that component's logic holds this app component. So that means what you have done, you just wrap this app component inside global state. This global state is nothing but the context which will provide the state to all the child components, and these children is nothing but these children that you are passing here. Okay, so we have learned three steps. First, create the context, give initial value, export the context, then create a global state using global context.provider, pass the children and pass a value. Now here you need to pass all the state, that will be checking, and then very important, you need to wrap this global state in your main root component. Okay, now what we are going to do, right? So first I'll go to our app component. So I'm going to comment it out from here. Now let's say what we are going to do, right? I'll create two different component. See, we'll keep this on very simple orders. This will be a little tricky. So in one component I'll be having a button, okay, and then there is another component there I'll be having a text. On click of this button, I want to change the text of the color or basically font size of the text. But what I'm going to do, right, those two will not be interconnected. That means there is no connection between those two components. So here I'll create, let's give this one as context concept, something like that. Create two components. So I'll create a button.jsx and I'll create another one, and that will be text.jsx. See, I'm keeping everything very simple. Okay, you'll understand why I'm keeping this on simple. The way we'll be moving from simple to complex at the end by this video, will be understand that how much complex thing that we are going to create. So here in this button, let's create a component. So we'll give this on context button component. So what this will does, this will return simple button, and this will be like change theme, something like that. And I'm going to export this. So we'll export default context button component, and I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. So this will be my context text component, and here I'll be having simple h1, and I'll do change text or something like, let's give my name only. Okay, now let's go to our app.js or main.jsx. No, not here, app.jsx, and here I'm going to import context button component and context text component. So we are having change theme, and then here now notice one thing, that we don't have any connection between. So from this component or button component, I'm going to click here, but I'm going to change the color in a different component, not in the same component. Now you might ask me, okay, why we are creating context for that? You can do the same thing in this app and then you can pass it. Yeah, you can do that, but it's a simple one, right? When you'll be having very large application, like let's say you're creating e-commerce, there you're having 10 pages. You can't manage all the state in this app and then pass it to all the components, and it's become messy. So that is the reason you need to have some kind of centralized version of state management where you will be able to do that. So here I'll go to my context. Now what I'm going to do, right? So let's say I'll create a theme state. So this will be my theme, and I'll create a set theme. Please learn this one very carefully. And here I'm going to keep a use state, and I'll keep this one as light. So by default, and here you can notice I'm doing this one in the global context. So I'm taking a state and I'm keeping the theme as light for the first time. Now let's say I need to get this theme variable in this text component. Okay, how I'm going to consume that? So to consume this state, first you need to provide. Where you will provide in the provider. So here you can see that in the value you'll be passing all the state. So in this value inside this object, now again this has to be object. Here you will be passing the theme. So you're passing the theme here, and also you're passing the set theme. Now whatever you'll be passing as a value in this context, you will be able to consume this in your child component. So for example, button is your child component, text is your child component. So now I need to get the theme value here. So how we are going to do that? So here first I'll log here, right? So we'll do get state from global context. So to consume the state, you need to use the use context hook. So this is the this is the uses of use context hook to consume. So you can see that what it will do, this will accept or consume a context object, and then it will return the current context value. Correct? So here you need to pass what? You need to pass the context. Now you might think, what is our context? So that is the reason we have created the context here and we have exported. So this is the context name that we have given, global context. So here we need to pass the global context. If I now log this, right, see what will happen. Get state from global context, save it, and see what we are getting. If you go here, you are getting an object, and inside this there is a set theme method, which is a dispatch method, and then there is a theme light. Awesome, right? Now you see you don't have any connection, so from context you are reading the theme. Now what we are going to do, we'll take a style here and we'll do the font size. So we are going to, for example, we'll do if this theme, what is that theme? So get state from global context dot theme. So we should not do like this. That is the reason what we'll do, right? We'll always destructure from this context. So you can directly destructure here because this is object, right? So you can destructure and then take the theme. So here I'm going to take, if the theme is equal to light, so I'll make the font size as 50px, or else I'll do, if this is dark, I'll do 100px. Same, what else we'll do? We'll do a background color. If the theme is equal to light, I'll keep this one as white, or else I'll keep this one as black. Also let's take a color. So color, again I'm going to do, if the theme is equal to light, I'm going to change the color to, let's say, what we'll do, right, we'll do blue, or else we'll do yellow. Okay, so we're using, what else we are using? We are using font size, color, and theme. Okay, now if I go here, right, so we're getting blue color. The reason is because currently the theme is light, we are getting blue. But what we need to do, right, on click of this, we need to toggle this from light to dark, dark to light. So how we are going to do that? See, to do that, two ways I'm going to show you. Again, you need to basically get this set theme state, which will update the state, right, in this button component. So how we are going to do that? Again, the same process. We'll destructure the set theme from use context, and then you have to pass the global context. Okay, and then what you can do, simply take a on click and do here set theme. Now we also can take the theme here. So this will give you that if theme is equal to light, if this is light, make it dark, or else make it light. Save it, and let's see what is happening. Click here, see, font size, color, and background color. Click here again, getting changed, right? Awesome. So that means, see that you don't have any connection between these two components, but using a global state, you are managing the state globally, and then you are consuming that state. Now you can do another thing, right? Let's say you don't want to do this set theme here. You can do this logic in this context. I'll show you. So here what you need to do, create a method in this context. So I'll do handle change theme on button click. And here, instead of passing this set theme, you can pass this function only. See, I told you, right, whatever you will be passing, that you will be able to receive. So now you are getting this here instead of set theme, because we are passing handle change theme on button click instead of set theme. So I'll get it here. And then what I'm going to do, right, so I'll cut it, and then I'll pass this handle change theme on button click. But if I click here, nothing is changing. The reason is because you need to basically do it here. So now whatever you are doing, set theme, you are doing in this component. Okay, and now you'll see that if I click here, this is changing. So if it's a simple one, you can directly take the set state in this component only and do that. Or else, let's say you need to make this one reusable and you're using this one in multiple components. So create a function here, pass that function into the context, consume that, and then pass that in the on click. And here we don't need the theme, so I'll remove this one. So I hope that this is now clear, that how you are going to create a global state, how you can wrap this in your main dot or index.js file, how you can consume that using use context, and also how you can provide that using this provider. So I think that will be more than enough for context, because the main project that I'm going to create, right? That is the admin dashboard. For this one we are going to use global context only, or basically context API. Then there will be some other projects there we are going to use Redux toolkit also. Now next we are going to learn another hook, that is use reducer, and after that we will start our journey of creating projects. Alright, so till now we have covered use state, use effect, and also the use context hook. Now let's learn another very important hook, and that is called use reducer. So use reducer is another, you can say, like a state management hook only, that basically helpful for complex kind of state management. So what this does, this will take a state and there will be dispatch method which will dispatch a particular action, and based on the actions that you are dispatching, we will be having a reducer. This reducer will receive a state and action, and based on the action type it will do certain operation and it will return you the updated state. So for this one I'm going to do a very simple example. Let's go here and let's say I'm going to create another file, and let's give this one name as use reducer example.jsx. Close everything else for now, and I'm going to create a function, and this will be use reducer example, return the JSX. We'll have a button, this will be a count button. Okay, or let's do a different thing. So here first button will be to hide text, second there will be another button that will be to show the text, there will be a third button that will be change text styles, something like that. So we'll be having 3 buttons. Now we are going to do export default, and I'll go to our app.jsx and I'm going to comment out both of these, and let's import use reducer example. So we're getting 3 buttons here. Now what we are going to do, right? So let's say we will be having a text, so this will be use reducer hook example, and here I'll give this one as h3. Now what I'm going to do, on click of this I want to hide this text, on click of this I want to show this, and on click of this I want to change the styles. So let's see how we are going to do that using use reducer. So the first thing what we need to do, we need to basically take a state variable or object, and there will be a dispatch method. This method will dispatch action that we are going to see. So now we need to import our use reducer. Use reducer will take a reducer that we need to create, and also it will take a initial state. Okay, so if you go here, right, we are having the initial argument and then there is a init, but we mostly need these two. Now in the initial state we'll do initial state, then I'll be having here like a show text flag, this will be false, and there will be another state which will be change text styles flag. So both the things that we'll be having, so this will be our initial state, and now I'm going to create a reducer. So reducer will be a simple function. So here I'm going to create reducer. This will receive 2 things. One, it will receive the state and also the action. Now what it basically does, it will see at the end the main objective is to return the updated state, as simple as that. But there has to be some scenarios or condition that it will basically check that what feature or basically which action I need to execute, and based on that I need to return the updated state. So here, because we can have multiple actions, let's say 10, 15, it's always better to write in switch statement instead of writing in if else. And the key that we will be having, and that is action.type. So each and every action will have a type, and this is mandatory. Based on this type it will execute that case, and then it will return you the updated state, as simple as that. And in the default it will always return you the state. So now let's see what we are going to do basically. So for now what I'm going to do, right, so let's give some value here, random value, and for now I'm going to return the state only, will not do anything now. I'm going to show you that what exactly we are getting in this state. So I'll log this and I'll check here. Let's go. And if you see, we are getting an object, and in this object you are having these two things: change text styles flag and show text flag. This is nothing but your initial state, correct? So now what I want to do, on click of this button I need to hide this text. That means I'll keep this one show text flag as false. On click of this I need to show the text. That means I'll make this flag as true, and on click of this I need to change the text styles. So in that case I'm going to make this one as true. Okay, or let's make this one as toggle text styles. Okay, so now let's see how we are going to do that. So here I'll create an on click method. This on click method will dispatch. Now this will dispatch a action. This action will have a type. This is mandatory, and this, in this type you will basically mention that what functionality you are doing on click of this button. So you can see that it's clearly mentioned that we are hiding the text. So here I'll give a hide text, correct? So this will be my type. Now this is a unique type. What we can do, right, we can also create these types here. It always better to keep this in a separate file, but for now, for understanding purpose, this is fine. So we're having a hide text, correct? Then we'll be having const show text. Now the only reason we are doing, because here we don't have any human error in this case, right? If we do some typing mistake and everything, and here we'll do change text style. Okay, these three actions we need. So here instead of passing like this, you're going to pass the hide text. So this is the type. Now this type it will receive here, correct? So here I'm going to give hide text. Okay, now you can keep this one also, that is fine, just to show you like. And then I'll create two more cases. So one will be to show text and one will be to change text style. So show text, and there will be another case, this will be show text styles. So what I'm going to do, right, on this show text button, on click of this, again we need to take on click, and here I'm going to dispatch. Again here I'm going to dispatch a type, and I'm going to do show text. And for on click here, I hope you're already getting that we need to dispatch another type, and in this case this will be your change text style. So three dispatch we are basically dispatching here. Now here if I come right, so let's see what we are getting in this state and the action. Save it. Now see, if I go and click on this, there is a line number 14, you can see 15, there is a state. So this is the state that we logged here, and that you can see there is a type, right, hide text, and this case is basically matching here. Okay, I think we can also do this one like this. This will also work. So if I click here, right, we are getting the same, and let's use the same here. So I hope you are getting that based on this type we are basically able to access the state. Now whatever things we want to do, we'll be able to do that. So on click of hide text, what we want to do, we want to make this show text flag as false. So what we can return, so return here the existing state that we are having, and then we'll do show text flag, and this will be false, because this is what we want to do, right? When we want to show the text, in that case we want to return the existing state, and then we'll do show text flag as true, because we are showing the text. And when we're changing the text style, in that case we want to toggling, right? So what we can do, we can simply return the existing state, and then we'll do change text style flag will be equal to not equal to state dot change text style flag, because you are getting this one, so you're toggling. If it is false, it will be true, true or false. If it is false, it will be true. I like it. These things we already discussed in some other concepts, right? So that's all about the reducer that we need. Now notice one thing, what will happen in this state. So I'll just remove this console from here, save it. See, we are getting show text flag false, and this. Notice one thing, if we click on show text, this should be true. Click here, this is now true. If I click toggle text style, this will be true. So both are true. Again, if I click, it will be false. Now if I do hide text, now this should become false. Click here. Now it is false. So I hope you are getting that it is returning you the updated state. So now what we can do, simply we can check here, right, that if the state dot show text, if this is true, then only I want to render this, or else this will be null. Now let's go here. Now it's hide text. Click on show text. We are getting hide text, and this is working fine. Now change styles again. So here I'll take a style, and I'll simply, let's add some background color for now. So background color I will do, if this state dot change text, if this is true, so I'll make this one as black, or else I'll make this one as red. Save it. Now see, if I click here, this is now red, correct? And then if I click here, okay, so we need to toggle this, right? This is red, but this should become black here. So this we need to check what is happening. Change text style flag is still false. Okay, this is now okay. That's why I'm thinking, I think it's not refreshed yet. Okay, now let's see. If I show text, click here, this is changing, right? Yeah. So now it's toggling. We are showing this on click, it's hiding. So click toggle. See, the main thing is not about doing the simple example. Main thing whether you are able to grasp the concept or not. So you will take a state here. There should be a dispatch method. Take use reducer. Create a reducer. Reducer is nothing but your state action. Based on the action type, it will check that which case you need to execute. So let's say it's getting this one, so it will execute this state and return you the updated state. As simple as that. And whatever functionality that you are doing, let's say you're clicking button, handling input, you need to dispatch a type, and this type has to be there. This is mandatory. So that's all about this use reducer, and I think with this we have almost completed the very basic concept. Now there is one thing we haven't done, and that is like how we can create form, manage on change event on input select. The reason why I'm not going to create a very simple form, because we will be doing this form example multiple times. We are going to learn different ways how you can create form, how you can create reusable form also. Like you don't have to create forms multiple times. You'll be creating a simple input or reusable input, and that you are going to use throughout the application. You just have to pass some config, and based on that config it will dynamically create those inputs. So that is the reason I'll keep this section at the end, because when we'll be creating some of our main project, that is the MERN stack, there we are going to learn how you can create advanced level of form, error handling, and those things. But with this we have completed the very basic level of React, because we know how we can create components, how to pass data using props, how to do state management both in class-based and functional component, how to do like lifecycle methods in class-based components, hooks, use state, use reducer, use effect, and use context. These four are mainly used. There are others, but for now I think it's time to start our project journey. So let's start with our first project. So in the first project we are going to use Material UI, and then we will be basically rendering some list of nodes. It's kind of a to-do app. And each and every project that we'll be creating, right, each and every project will be associated to a particular concept that we have learned so far, and that is the way, and I think that is the best way to learn and practice all the concepts. So that will be the first project. Then second, we will be having some shopping cart. So for that we are going to use context, because we have already learned context API. Third, we are going to create a kind of like notes application. For this one we are going to use very simple basic level of Redux toolkit, so that you will get some idea how to use Redux toolkit. And with that project also, I'll create the project in such a way that you within that 1 hour you'll be able to understand each and everything that you need to know on Redux toolkit. And I forgot to mention, in shopping cart project also we are going to learn React Router DOM, because we are going to use the React Router DOM in that project. Once we'll complete all of this, then we'll be moving to MERN stack, and there will be two projects, user application and the admin dashboard. So this is what exactly we are going to build in next couple of projects. So let's start with our first project, which will be a simple kind of to-do application. Alright everyone, so now it's our time to start our first project, and for the first one we are going to create a simple to-do list where we will be fetching list of data, and then on click of each and every to-do item we are going to open a simple dialog with some information, nothing else. And for that we are going to use Material UI for the UI. And so let's start it. So you can see that I already created a brand new project using Vite. I think I already discussed how you can do one, and I will highly suggest that please try to do or basically install the project by yourself. So the first thing what we are going to do, like, let's go to app.jsx, and I'm going to remove all of this, and then we can also delete this app.css, and here I'm going to return a div with h1, and I'll give this one name as to do app using Material UI, and let's give this one name as simple, or else you will see that why this is very simple, not much complex. So that is the reason I added simple to do app using Material UI. Okay, now we need to change couple of styles. So index.css, we'll remove this from here, and also this one. Okay, so this is fine. Also let's go to our I think for now this will be fine. So what we are going to do, right, whatever things you have learned so far, like simple use state and use effect, we are going to apply all of this, and also how you can pass data using props, everything we have learned, right? So first we will go to our Material UI, and we need to install this Material UI emotion and also styled. I'll copy this, and I'm going to open another terminal, and I'll paste it here. Okay, and then inside of the source we are going to create a components folder. So do components, and here we need couple of components. But first what we are going to do, right, so we need to basically fetch the list of to-dos from this API endpoint. So you're going to use this where is our to-dos, there will be some another more to-dos, so you can see that. So we'll do get all to-dos. So this is the API that we need. Now you'll notice how we are going to approach each and every project. So it's not for you, or for someone it might be very simple one, but if you are a complete beginner, what you should do, right, you should basically try to apply all the concepts that you've learned so far, and that is the only way to get better over time. Okay, so first thing what you need to do, so first thing, whenever you will fetch a list of to-dos, you need to ask yourself that I need to store that to-dos in some place, right? So that means you need some kind of state. So for this one, the first thing you need a state. Now these things you need to figure it out, or else it is difficult. So here I'll give a to-do list, then I'll be having a set to-do list. You will see each and everything we have learned so far, how I will be applying each and every topic in every project that we are going to build. Not in this one is very simple. Now what will be to-do list? So to-do list will be array, right? So this is your initial state. Next, this concept also you learned so far, that when the to-do will be getting fetched, so as a user you will give a better user experience, right? So for that one you need to have some kind of loading state or pending state. This also you have done. Let's write it here. So do const loading set loading, and this will be use state of false. So for now we need these two state, correct? Alright, now you need to fetch the list of to-dos, and we need to render it here. What we are going to do, so now second thing you have to think, okay, how I'm going to fetch the list, whether it has to be on page load, or it has to be on click of any button, or it has to be something else. So in this case it has to be on page load, right? So that means what we need to do, we need to basically take a use effect, right? And then what you need to keep, the dependency as empty, because this is what I've learned, that if we are keeping this one as empty, so in that case we'll be fetching the list of data on the page load, correct? Another thing I'll do quickly, I'll go to here and I'll remove the strict mode from here. Now let's give a proper name. So what we are going to give, right, we'll give this one as fetch list of to-dos. Now let's create this method. So we'll do async function I'm doing each and everything little slow so that it will be easy for all of you. If you think this is little slow, you can increase the playback speed. I think there is always an option. We'll take a try block, we'll take a catch block, take a log, also you can take another state, and that will be to handle any kind of error, right? So we'll do use state of null. So here if it is coming in the catch block, so we'll show some error message like what we're going to do, we'll do some error occurred, right? And this you can render. So inside try block, the first thing what you need to do, so first thing you need to basically set this loading state as true, and then we are going to fetch the list of to-dos from the API. So we'll do const API response equal to await fetch, and let's go here, copy this, and then I'm going to do const result, we'll do await API response dot JSON, and then first I'm going to log the result, save it, and let's see what you're getting. So we are getting an object and there is a to-dos. So now we'll be able to see if the to-dos length is greater than 0. So we are going to set these to-dos in our state. So we're going to do if this result dot to-dos, and if this result dot to-dos dot length greater than 0. So I'm going to do set set to-do list as result dot to-dos, and I'll do set loading as false once again. Else, if something else goes wrong, so we'll do set to-do list, this will be empty array again, and then I'm going to do set loading as false. Also you're going to set the error message as empty. Okay, here also you can make this one as empty only because there is not that much error. If you are getting any particular error, you will be able to set it. For now I'll keep it like this. So now save it, and we need to basically render the list of to-dos, correct? And for this one, let's do one thing, let's use some CSS modules. So we have already learned that how we'll be able to do using CSS modules. So that is the reason what we can do, right? Let's create another like styles dot module dot CSS, and the same I'm going to import it here. So we'll do import classes from we'll do style dot module dot CSS. Okay, now here what I'm going to do, in this one I'm going to take a class name. So for this one, let's give this one name as we'll do like header title. So what we can do, let's give like font size, I'll do little less, we'll do 30 px, and here I'm going to do class name, and this will be, I think you already know, so this will be classes dot header title. Okay, so this is the classes. Save is okay. We are getting some error, I think. We have done, oh okay, this has to be styles. So now this is getting fine, or we should increase it little bit. Let's make this one 40, let's see. Okay, now I'll do less only. This is fine. Now here I'll take another class name, so I'll do classes dot main wrapper, and here we'll do wrapper, I'll do a padding of 50 px. Okay, now next what I need to do, we need to basically render the list of to-dos, correct? So for this one I'm going to create a components, and here I'll be having one component, and this will be my to do item, where I'll be having rendering each and every individual to do item. And here we'll do index.jsx, and inside this component I'll be having another folder, and that will be my to do details. Okay, now in this app.js what we can do, we will take a div, and here I'm going to check if the to dos, okay, to do list and to do list dot length is greater than 0. So in that case I'll render to do list dot map. So this will be my individual to do item, and in this case I'm going to render this to do item component. So this is one component I need to create. So we'll do function to do item, and let's return for div, and I'll do here this is my single to do item. So now I'm going to render this to do item. Okay, let me import this. I don't know why this IntelliSense is not working. Okay, so I'm going to render the to do item, and if there are nothing, so in this case I'm going to render null. Save it, and let's see what is happening. Refresh this page. Some error. Okay, I think we haven't exported, right? Yeah, so we'll do export default to do item. Okay, now let's see. Awesome, so you're getting all the to do items here. Now because currently this is static, so how we are going to render? So we need to render the single to do, right? So let's do one thing. We are going to pass the single to do item as a prof here. So we'll do to do, which will be my to do item. That's it. So now I'll be receiving this to do as a prof here, and let's log this, and let's see what we are receiving. So you can see that we are receiving the object, and here we are having all the details. Okay, now here what I'm going to render, I'm going to use some of the inbuilt components of Material UI. So the first thing, I'm going to render a card from Material UI. Okay, and inside this we will be having a card content, and now here in this card content I want to render a text. Now for text there is a component that we can use that is called typography, and here what I want to render, I want to render the to do title. So if you see, right, we are having this to do, and here we are having this title. So we'll render to do dot to do, and here we need to give a variant that which component element we want to render. So I'll give this one as h5, and I'll give the color as text dot secondary. If I now save this, see what will happen. Refresh this. Okay, so you can see that we are getting all of this. Now another thing we need to do, that we are going to do later, and that is we need to show some kind of loader. So refresh this. We are getting. Now we need to give some style in this card component. For this, to pass a props in this Material UI, you can use this sx property. Okay, so this will be object, and this will normally receive any CSS properties that you want to pass. For example, max width I want to give 345, 350 let's give, and I'll give a display of flex. Then I'll do flex direction as column, and I'll give justify content, we'll do space between. Save it. Okay, This is fine. Now next thing what we need to do, we'll render some more things. So here after this card content, I'm going to render another component that is called card actions, and here I'm going to render a button component. So we'll import button from material UI only, and in this button I'm going to do something like show details, and in this button let's use some property. So we'll do SX, we'll do background color as black, then I'm going to do a color of white, then we'll do a opacity of 0.9, and here I want to show something in hover. So here we can give hover property, and on hover I want to do opposite, or let's do one thing, let's use both same, and I'll do opacity of 0.1, sorry, full 1, and let's make this one 7.5. Save it. So you can see that if I hover, this is working fine, right? Let's make this one only details. Okay, now we need to use some style to make this look proper. So for this one, what we can do, simply let's go to our main component, which is our main app.js, and here now obviously you'll be able to use this or do this styling using Material UI also. The only reason I'm doing, so that here we are using combination of Material UI and CSS module, so it will give you some more idea how you can incorporate multiple CSS along together. Okay, so here what I'm going to do, I'll give a class name, and I'm going to give here classes dot, this will be our to-do list wrapper. So let's copy this, go to our styles, and here I'm going to do display as grid, we'll do gap of 15 px, and we'll do grid template, and we'll do grid template columns, we'll do repeat for 1 fr. Okay, now this is breaking, so this part we need to check. To do item, this will be flex direction. Awesome. So now this is looking nice, and refresh this page, we are getting the data. What I want to do next, right, on click of this I want to open a model, and then I want to render some different thing, like let's say I want to render the ID of this and also the text. So let's say how we are going to do that. Alright, now next what we are going to do, right, on click of this we want to fetch the list details for each and every individual to do, and then I want to open a dialog, and then in that dialog I want to render something. So for that one we'll go to again app.jsx, and we need two more state here. So the first one will be, and let me check one more thing. Okay, so now here I think there is some problem is happening with this. Let me open and close this, let's see. Yeah, so I'll take two more state. So one will be our to do details, and we'll do set to do details. This will be use state, and we'll keep this one as null. And I'll take another state, and that will be, because we are going to open a model or dialog, so I'll take another state here, and this will be open dialog, set open dialog, and this will be use state of, we'll keep this one as false. Okay, so now what we need to do, on click of this details button, we need to basically fetch the list of to-dos, correct, or sorry, the details of that particular to-do. So how we are going to do that? So for this one, first I'm going to create another method, and that will be async function fetch details of current to-do. Okay, and if I go to this, right, so let's go to single to-do. So you can see that we need to call the same API, but for each and every individual to-do we need to pass that current to-do ID. So that means somehow we need to receive the current to do ID in this argument. So we need to get current to do ID. Now here you might think that how we are going to do that. So for this one, the first thing is, because this button that we are having here, that is in to do item component, so I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to pass this method as a prop in this component. Okay, so this is one way of doing. There are multiple ways you can do that. So I'm passing this one in the to do item, this, so that means I'll receive this one as a prop here. And now what you can do, right, so whenever I'll click on this particular button, I need to pass that ID. So let's say if I click on this one, so I need to pass 4. If I click here, I need to pass the 2. So we'll take a one click, and here what you can do, right, we'll simply call that fetch details of current to do, and here you need to pass the to do dot ID. So what will happen if I now save this, go to app.jsx, and if I log this current to do here, right, so you can see that if I go here, click here, you are getting 1, click here, you are getting 3, 4, and this is working fine. So now what we can do, we can call this API. So we'll copy this, and then I'll create. So let's take another try. We'll take catch. For now I'm going to log the error. And we'll do const API response. This will be await fetch, and here you need to paste this. I'll take this one as template literals. Now you might think why. The reason is because this one value will not be static. This will be the current to do ID that you need to pass. So when you click on the 10th to do, I need to pass here 10. Okay, and now I'm going to do const result is equal to await API response dot JSON, and let's log this result here. Save it, go to console, click here, see, you're getting the details, click here, you're getting the details, and this is working fine. Okay, so now what we are going to do, right, we can set these particular details. So we are having the set to do details, correct? So we can simply check that if the result is true, so we'll make the set to do details as the result. Well, let's give this one name as details. What else? Let's give, I think let's give details only. So we'll do set to do details as details, and once we'll get the details, then only I want to open the model. So now what I'll do, right, set open dialog as true, then only I want to show, else we will do set to do details, this will be null, and we'll do set open model as false. Okay, now save this. Now what we are going to do, we need to create this to do details component, and here I'm going to open a model or dialog, whatever you can say. So function will do to do details, and now what this will receive, right, this will receive two prop. Can you guess? So the first prop will be, it will receive this open dialog, and also it will receive this to do details, these two things. So copy this, so it will receive to do details, and also it will receive open dialog. Now we are going to return. And another thing I forgot to mention, and that is, in JSX we can use this fragment. This will basically use to wrap multiple components into one, because your JSX can have only one single parent, right? So here this will basically create that wrapper. So this is another component that you can use. The reason is because, let's say if I do something like this, I'll return a paragraph, and after this I'll return another div, right? So it will give you error that JSX expression must have one parent element. That means you need to wrap both into one element. So that is the reason we'll use this fragment to wrap it, and then we'll do a dialog from material UI, and inside this dialog I'm going to render the dialog title, and here I'm going to render these to do details that we are having dot to do, and then I'll be having dialog actions, and here I'm going to import a button, and on click of this button I want to close. Okay, so here in this dialog you need to basically tell that okay, open the dialog. So there will be an open prop that it will receive, and for based on what, so we are having this open dialog that will be receiving from the parent component. That's it. And then I think for now this is fine. Now let me just export this, save it, go to app.jsx, and I'm going to import it here. So we'll do to do details. Now it will receive the open dialog. This open dialog will be this open dialog that we are having, and also you need to pass the to do details. So we'll do open dialog, and also you need to pass to do details, which will be to do details. Now let's save it, see what is happening. File, let's say click here, see it's opening. On click of this close, now we need to close this. So how we are going to close this? So to close this one, we need to make this open dialog from true to false again. So we need to pass this set state method. So here I'll pass this set open dialog as a prop, then we'll go to our to do details, and I'll receive this one here. Now this open dialog also receive another one that is on I think on close, and here I'm going to make this set open dialog as false again, and same for button click. So on click of this button, two things we need to do, I'll tell you what. So the first thing we are going to make these details that we are having, right, this set to do details, so this also we are going to make as null every time we'll close this. So we'll save it, and we'll receive this one. I'm not going to again explain all of this in details that why we are receiving these props, because these already we have discussed how you can pass data from one component to another component. And so on click of this button, first I'll make this set to do details as null again, and I'll close this open dialog, so this will be false. Save it. Now let's see. So if I click on outside, it's closing. Click here, watch a documentary, close. Now it is closing. Click, and you see once the data is getting fetched, then only it is opening the dialog. Awesome. Now last thing that we need to do here, I'm going to do another thing, and that is the data, till the data is getting fetched, I want to show some kind of skeleton loader. So here we can basically render very simply that if loading is true, then return skeleton from material UI, and here you need to pass a variant. I'll give this one as rectangular. Let's use a width, I'll use this one as 650, let's say, and height I will do 650. Save it. Now this is happening very fast. See that you are getting, right? If this is taking some, in case this is taking some time, right, so in that case this loader will show, and now everything is working fine. Close this. Awesome. And I think with this our first project is done. Now obviously this is a very simple one that we have done. Now later we will be doing some shopping cart using context, and also we are going to implement another project using Redux Toolkit. Then we also going to implement two Monster project. One will be a simple user management app, then there will be our main admin dashboard. So that's all for this particular project. Now let's move on to the next one. Alright everyone, so till now we have completed the very basic concept. We also learned how we can work with context, and also have created a very simple project, right? Now before we will start with our second project, which will be a shopping cart using use context. So we want to basically complete the event handling and also how we can work with forms. Now for this particular section, we are not going to use any form third-party library like React Hook form. The reason is because at the end of this particular video we are going to create a simple to mid-level Monster project also, and in that project we are going to use React Hooks form. And the reason why I'm not going to use any third-party library package, because this particular section is going to help you for interview purposes also. So normally in interview you might get some queries from forms, and also how you can do some kind of very basic form validation, and for sure in interview they will not allow you to use any third-party library package. So that is the reason we are going to learn everything from scratch. So the first thing what I am going to do, right, so let's go here and we will do one thing. Let's create a component and I'll give this a name as form, and inside this I'm going to create index.jsx. Now we will start with very simple one, and then we'll be moving to some complex, like how we can create dynamic form controls and those things. So here I'll simply do function. Let's give form component, and here first we'll do export default form component, and I'm going to return, let's return a div with h1, and this will be form. Now obviously we need to import in our app.jsx, so I'll just comment it out from here, and let's use our form component. Awesome. So now normally in forms, so you can have different kind of inputs. So if you're already aware of like HTML elements like input, select, text area and those things, so here we are going to start with a very simple input, that how we are going to work with input, how we can manage state, how we can manage values and those things. So first thing, I'm going to take an input element here, right, and now let's say what I want to do, right, this I'll save this. So this input, whenever I'll type something, let's say this value I need to send to a server, and then I need to save this particular value to a database. So what we need to do, somehow there is a button, and on click of this button we need to do the same functionality. So somehow we need to store this value in some state, correct? So that is the reason the first thing what we need to do, right, we will give some we'll take some state to manage this particular input element. Now here input will take some properties that you need to pass. So the first one is the name, so this will be the name of the input. So let's give this one name as what we'll give, let's give name only. Then we'll give an ID, so this will be also name. Then I'll give a placeholder, and this will be enter your name. Okay, so we're getting some error. Oh sorry, here we have done mistake. So now if I remove, so we are getting placeholder here. Now also we need to give some value here, so I'll give a value, and I'll give my name here. Now see what will happen. Save this. So you can see you're not able to edit this, and this value actually it's taking the initial value. And if I go here and inspect this, you are getting this value here, correct? Let's change this to something else. If I save it, you can see this value is getting updated. So that means what we understand, that whenever I'll do some change here, that means I'll be typing, currently this will not work, I'll type, see nothing is working. So we need to basically store that updated value in some particular state. So that is the reason I will take a state here. Let's give this one name as name value. Now obviously you should give like name here, but I'm giving name value so that it will be easy to understand, and I'll give here set name value. And then we'll take a use state and we'll pass an empty string. So this is our initial value, okay, and this name value you need to pass as a value here. So that means first time this value is empty, correct? Now still nothing is working. The reason is we need to basically tell this React that okay, when I'll type something, or basically when the value will change, we need to update or basically we need to store the updated value. So to do that we have different events, right? So just like for button we have a click event, so for input we have an on change. That means whenever there is a change I want to do something. Now here I will do like handle input change, right? So this is my event, this is the name of the function. Now here we'll create this function, but how we are going to get this value, that whatever user will be typing, how we are going to get it here? So this input will give a event property, and let's log here this event, save it, and let's see what is happening. see, I'll type something here. Oh, sorry, let me remove this part from here. See, we are getting a event, and here we'll be having a target, and inside this target you are having a value, correct? So this is your value basically. So this value we need to update. So that means we usually get this value from, so we'll do const and destructure the value of this from event.target. Just now we saw. So this will be your value. Now what we need to do, we need to set this value in this set state method, so that whenever we'll be typing something, this value will be updated, or this name value will be automatically updated. So now what we can do, simply we'll do set name value is the value of this. Now there are multiple ways you can do that. So let's say this is the, for me I think this is like much cleaner way. So here if you want, you can directly pass it like this. So let's say I'll do set name value will be event.target.value. So this will also work. So that is the reason I'll suggest like you keep this on much cleaner way and do like this. If I now save this, now see what will happen. So I'll just go here, and so notice this value here. I'll type something. See, this value is now getting updated, because the reason is because every time you are doing a on change, you're changing the value, you're setting the updated value from the event.target.value. So this is how you need to handle any kind of input change. Now the point is here, this is not only for input, this is applicable for any kind of other input elements also, like select, text area, checkbox and everything. So now what we are going to do, right, I'm going to show you one very interesting thing, and that is how you are going to create dynamic form elements. So for example, let's say I'll give one example here. So you're creating a form, and in that form you're having 10 inputs or 5 inputs and 5 selects. Now normally how you will do, you write this input 5 times, right? So you'll copy this and let's say paste it 5 times, something like that, right? And if you do something, obviously it will changing because we have given same, that is fine. The reason is whenever the number of inputs will be more, how you are going to manage this. So there actually, see, there are multiple ways you can do that, but I will show you one way that I actually like. So now before that, we need to also understand another concept, and that is how we can basically work with forms. So now what I'm going to do, right, I'll save this. Now inside this I'll take a form element. So I'll take a form. Now whenever you'll be creating a form, you need to wrap that particular JSX inside form element. Now I'll cut it from here and then I'll paste it here. So now this input inside this form element, and this form element here I'll have a button. Now, so this button will do what this will do on submit. This will store this particular information, whatever we'll be typing, in a database. Correct? So now how we are going to do that? So that means whenever I'll submit, I need to somehow get this particular value, and I need to do a API call, and then I need to save this particular value in your database. If I now submit this one, you can see this page is getting refreshed. Now this is a normal default behavior of form. So what we are going to do, right, this form, first of all, whenever you have a button inside this form, so we'll give a button type. These all are normal HTML JavaScript concepts. I'm not going to explain all of this. So you will give a type of submit, and then this form will have a on submit method. Just like for input you have a on change, so this will have a on submit method, and here you will do handle submit. Okay, so this is my method name. So now I'll create this. So I'll do function handle submit. Now again this method will give you another event, and here what we need to do, we need to do event.prevent default. So that means we want to prevent the behavior of the browser, normal behavior, that whenever I just refresh this page or click on this button, this page doesn't refresh. If I click here, right, nothing is happening, because we have actually using this prevent default, we have stopped that behavior. Now simply what we can do, we can call the API here, right, call API here, and then pass the name value. That means let's say you want to store this name value in your database. If I just simply log here this name value, that's it. So now if I now save this, and let's say I'll do here like name value, I'll give my name Sangam, and then I'll just do submit, and you can see we are getting my name here in this handle submit. So now it's very simple. So you'll be able to get this value, and then we can do like you want to store it in your database, you want to API call, whatever you want to do, that you can do. So what we have done, basically you need to wrap this form input inside a form. You need to take a on submit method. You need to stop the browser default behavior using event.prevent default, and then once you'll have the updated value of your input or select or text array or whatever, then you just pass those value or do the manipulation inside your handle submit method. Okay, so this is how you can work with simple forms. Now you can have multiple inputs, that is also fine. So we are also going to see that one, then only we will go to this dynamic form control creation. So how we are going to work with multiple inputs. So let's say you have a name and then you have an email, right? So I'll copy this, or let's create another one. So I'll do input and I'll give here type. So this type will be now email. Then I'll give a name. So name I'll give email. ID I will give email. Placeholder I will give enter your email. And then we also need to take a on change. Now I'm going to show you multiple ways that you can do that, okay, one by one. So first I'll create another separate method, and this will be handle email change. So for input we have given handle input change, for email we have given handle email change. Now I'll simply create this method, again the same process. This will give you another event. Now just like you have taken for name value, I hope you are already getting, so you need to take it another for email value. So I'll do here email value, and I'll do set email value. Again this will be use state of empty array. Now here we're going to pass the value, so value will be your email value, correct? So now we have already done this. So now in this handle email change, again we will do the same thing. So we get this, and then simply do set email value, because we are setting the value of email, and this will be email, sorry, this will be value event.target.value. That's it. So now let's say on submit I want to store the name as well as I want to store the email, and let's see if this is working or not. Save this. So let's give my name and I'll give my email, and then I'll do here submit. So you're getting name and email both. So now I hope you're getting that whatever or how many inputs you will be having, you can wrap those inputs inside form, and then you can do certain operations or whatever you want to do. But just what you need to do, you need to basically manage that on change. You can use some ref or something like that, but will not go into much advanced level. This is a very simple beginner level, so that is the reason I'm explaining in much simpler way. So this is one way that what you have done, you have basically created separate method. See, for name we have created a separate method, for email we have created a separate method. Sorry, this one, let's say now you have a 10 inputs here, so we'll be creating 10 separate methods. That is not the best way, right? So how we are going to do this one in a common way, correct? So that in one method we are going to manage both. So let's see how we are going to do that. So now I'm going to create another method now. Okay, so this will be function and this will be handle. We'll give form elements, or let's do handle on change, and this will give you an event. Now what I'm going to do, right, I'm going to pass this handle on change in both the places. So that means I'm only creating single method instead of creating multiple methods. But how you are going to do that? That means how React or browser will understand that when I'm typing here, this is I'm typing for name, and when I'm typing here, I'm typing for email. So now to understand that, again this on change will give you this event, right? And here I'm going to show you one interesting thing, and that is I'll just log here event.target.name. Now you might think from where this is coming, so see what will happen. If I go here, right, let me refresh this page first. Now see, I will type in this name, notice what will come. See, we are getting name. If I type here, we are getting email. So from where this is, so now you understand that, okay, browser will be able to understand that if I type here, this is I'm typing in name, for email I'm typing in email. And this is coming because you've given this name property here. So this is the name property from where this is taking event.target.name. So now it is very simple. So what we can do, right, we can destructure two things. So first I'll destructure the name and also I'll destructure the value. So, and these I'll destructure from event.target because both will be provided from event.target. So we have a name and we have a value. See now what I'm going to do. Now I'll create a common form state. So I'll give this one as form data. Notice what I'm doing. So I'll do form data and this I'll do set form data. And here I'll take a use state and I'll give an object because we have two elements. So we have a name and then we have an email. So I'll give here name. This will be empty. Now again, very important. You notice what I am giving here. This name, whatever the key name I am giving, this name is same as this name property that I have given here. That means for this one I'll be giving email, and this email is nothing but this email name that I have given here. Okay, so this is my initial form, correct? So this is now what I need to do. Whenever I will be typing here in this name, I need to update this name. Whenever I'll be typing in this email, I need to update this email property. So how we are going to do that? So in this common on change, we will call this set form data. So we'll call set form data, and then we need to basically get the previous form data. Now I'll also give you the example why that is, and that is we are basically destructuring the existing form data. So this form data. Now you might ask me why. The reason is because if you don't do this one, let's say for some reason I'm only updating the name, and if we don't keep the email name as it is, so email name will be vanished, correct? So that means whenever I'll be typing a name, I need to keep this email value as it is. Whenever I'll be typing in email, I need to keep the email name value as it is. So that is the reason whenever first thing what we are doing, right, we are destructuring the existing form data and then we will be updating the corresponding value. So how we are going to do that? That means how this method will understand that I am typing name and here I am typing for email. So this name property will give you, and here we need to pass this square bracket name. So this will be the dynamic property that we are passing. So whenever I will be typing this name, here this will automatically take the name property, means this one. Whenever I'm typing on this email, this will take the email property, and this is coming nothing from event.target.name. So this is the square bracket of name. So this is the dynamic value, and this will be equal to value. See this value, correct? So now let's see what is happening if I just log here form data, and also we need to pass. Now the value will be, can you guess? So value will be form data dot name, because this is doing for name, and here value will be, let's cut it from here, and this will be form data dot email. Save it. So first time name empty, email empty. I'll type something here. So name is getting updated. Now if you notice, if I type on email, the name value will be as it is, correct? So now see what will happen. If I now remove this part from here, this destructure, save it. Now see, if I just do something here, see only name is getting updated, email is now vanished because we are not keeping the old data. And if I type something here, now the email value is there, but the name value is vanished. Now you understand why we are doing destructuring, means we are keeping the existing data and based on that we are updating. So now if I type something here, right, both name and email value is there. So this is one way, or I will say this is the best way how you can basically create a common method, and from there you'll be able to manage all of this. Now this is one way. Now I'll show you another way. So you will be able to do this on inline also. Inline means instead of creating a separate method, you will be able to do that here only. So I'll comment it out, and now see what I'll do. So I'll do on change. So this will give us an event, right? And here we'll do set form data. See what we are doing. We are doing this line here, this line, nothing but this line. So here we are doing set form data, and we'll destructure the form data, and then we'll do event dot target dot name, correct? So for this one, event dot target dot name will be name, will be event dot target dot value, simple. And the same we can do for here also. So I'll comment it out, So event.target.name is email. So that means instead of creating a method, but I will not suggest, I'll tell you not to do like this. You can create a separate method so that you don't have to do these things multiple times. Instead we'll be doing in one time. This is just for showing purpose. And now if I do some value, right, this will work as it is, right? So this is multiple ways how you can manage or create forms. Now let's move to the next part. Now I'm going to show you how you can create dynamic form controls, or basically reusable form elements, and then you will be able to use that in anywhere in your application. So let's say you're working on a very large project and there you need to work with forms many times. So in that case, what you can do, right, you can create a common form, and that common form you can basically use in multiple places. So that we are going to see how we will do that. Okay. Alright everyone, so now we understand that how we can create forms and how to work with forms. So now let's understand how we can create some common form elements and create dynamic form. So for this one, what I'm going to do, right, so inside this I'm going to create another folder, and now I'm also share this particular repository so that you all can practice using this. So this is all for concepts and everything. So let's create a common form here. Okay, and I'm going to give this one as index.jsx. Now let's say we have for example two different pages. So currently we haven't started React Router DOM, but that is fine. So let's say we have two different pages or two different components, and in both the components, in one component you need to render, let's say, a sign-in form, and in another component you need to render a login form, something like that. So for this one, what I'm going to do right for now, so inside these components I'm going to create a login page. Let's consider this one as components for now. I'll do index.jsx, and then I'm going to do here a register. So this will be index.jsx. See, now what we are going to do, right? So first here I'm going to create the component. So I'll do register component. Let's return a div h1, and this is our register page or component, whatever. Copy this and then I'll paste it here, and I'll give this one name as login component. Now let's go to our app.jsx, and now I'm going to take a div. I'm going to take a div here, and then we are going to first, let's render the login component and then render the register component. For now we'll use some inline styling, like we'll give a display of flex, and we'll give a gap of, let's say, 10px, 20px. So here I'm having two components. Now what I want to do, I want to create some kind of common form logic, so that let's say currently we are having only two components. Let's say we need to implement form in 50 components, so that we'll be able to easily pass only that. We can only tell that component that, okay, create this particular form for me, so that I no need to create each and every element every time. So we are going to do the same. Now in this common form, so let's see how we are going to do that. So I'll do a function. I'll give this one name as common form. Let's return. Now what this will return, this will return a form, right? Now here I'm going to do export default, and we'll do common form. Now this form will receive or basically this form needs to render all the inputs, select all the elements inside of these, but that will depend on some props, that what kind of props that we are passing from this component. Let's say for this register we need to render 3 form elements. For this login I need to show 2 form elements, so both will differ. So that means this will receive some kind of prop from parent component, and I will give this one name as form controls. Now this logic we are also going to do implement in later projects also, because this is a very useful logic that you can basically implement. Now this doesn't matter whether you are using your own custom form or you are using some third-party library like React hooks form or Formic, something like that. So this form controls will be receiving, I'll give a initial value of empty array. Alright, now see how we are going to do this one. Now I will be having some common elements also. So for example, I will have a common input. So I'll do index.jsx. Then what else? So first I'll create this one. So let's do a function common input. Let's do export default common form, common input. Now what this will return, right? This will return, let's say, what you can do, will return a div, and I'll return a label here, and this label will be, I will be receiving a label from the parent component. So this will be my label. So this label I'm going to receive from here, sorry, as a prop. Then I'm going to render an input. Now this input will have the certain things. So it will have a name. This name I'll receive from props. Then it will have ID. This ID also I'll receive from props. Then it will have a placeholder. This also I'll receive from props, or else we'll give some random like enter value here. Okay, and then we also going to pass a value property that I'm going to receive from props. And what else we need to pass? We also need to pass an on change, and this also I'm going to receive from props. So these all the things it will receive from props. Also here let's give for, sorry, we need to give HTML for, and this will be our name. So now this name I'll receive, so we'll do on change name, ID, value, and placeholder. So that means all of this I'm going to receive from these props. Now what I'm going to do, right now, see how we are going to implement this one. Now we'll go to our first, let's start with our login page. So go to login page. Now in this page what we are going to call, we are going to call the common form, this form, right? So now we are going to call a common form. Now this will receive the form elements or form controls. See how we are going to do that. Normally you should create a config, or let's do that. Let's create a config only. So we'll go to our source, we'll create a config folder, and let's do index.js. So here I'll do export const, and we'll do login form controls or elements, whatever you can give. This will be array. Now here what you need to do, right, you need to basically pass all of this property that you need. Now obviously not all, value and on change we are going to pass later, but we need label, we need name, we need ID, and also we need the placeholder. So now we'll go here and we'll pass a name. So let's say for login I want to render an email. ID also will be, sorry, this will be small, so this will be my email. ID will be also email. Placeholder, so we'll pass enter your email. Also you're going to pass a label, and this will be also email. Now what else we need to pass? We need to pass another very important point, because we need to tell this common form element that what kind of element we want to render. If it's a input element, we will render from common input. If it's a select element, we will render from a common select component. If it's a text area, we'll render a text area. So that is the reason we need another property here, and that will basically tell us that component type. So this will be a input. So now I'll copy this and I'll paste it one more time. Now here I'm going to pass this one as password. Also we need to pass another thing, sorry, we need to also need a type, because this should have a type. So type will be, either you'll pass the type or else this will be text. Okay, so here we also need a type. So I'll pass a type. So for this one, type will be email. For this one, ID will be password, this will be enter your password, label will be password, component type will be input, and type will be password. So now we created all of this, right? So now we'll go to our login form, and here we need to pass our form controls. Now what will be the form controls? This will be nothing but this login form controls. So this is first, but now this will break because we also need to pass some other things. Okay, we need to pass the value and on change. So this will receive a form controls, this form element, it's common form. Also it will receive a form data, and also it will receive a set state method which will basically handle the on change. I think this we already discussed. So these three things it will receive. So now we'll go to our login form here, and here I'm going to create a state, and this will be my login form data, and set login form data, and this will be use state of. Now see, I think we have already discussed, right? So what we can give based on this name. So for this one name is email, for this one name is password. So here we'll pass email empty, and then we'll pass the password empty. So now this login form data we need to pass in this common form. So we'll pass form data, which will be login form data. Then we'll pass the set form data, which will be set login form data. So now these three things we are already passing here. Now we need to go and save it. Obviously nothing will come because we need to render it. Now see what we are going to do. So inside this form, now I'm going to map this form controls, because this is a array. So I'll do here if this form controls and form controls, or you can do something like this, form controls dot length, or else I will do null. So here I'll do form controls dot map. So this will be my single form element item. Now what I'm going to do, right, I will create a helper function here. So I'll create another function. So let's create a function, and this will be render form element. So this will receive the current element, and here I'm going to call this render form element. So I'll do render form element, and we'll pass this single form element item. So what exactly we are doing here, see, so it's simply doing like, so first it will check that we have a two elements, so it will map. Then we are passing the single element here, single element in this function, and this function will return. So now see what we'll do, we'll take a content which will be null, and now here we'll take a switch. Now the reason why we are taking switch, because this can have multiple use cases. Now based on what this will render, now see, now we have this component type. So this component type will tell if it's a input, then render the input. If it's a select, render select. If it's a checkbox, render checkbox. If it's radio, render radio. If it's a text area, render a text area. So this component type we can switch. So we'll do here get current element dot component type. So this, if this is input, now if you want you can do some types here. So we'll do const form types. So this will be if it's input, so render input. If it's select, render select. If it's text area, so this will be text area. Okay, so here I'll do if it's form types dot input, so I'll render input. If it's select, I'll render select. If it's default, I'll render input only. So now what you're going to do, right, if satisfies, so I'll take a content, and this content will be nothing but the common input. So you create a common input, right? So what you're doing, that means you're telling if it's a input type, render the common input. Now this will receive quite a few properties that we need to pass. So we'll receive a label which will be get current element dot label. It will receive a name which will be get current element dot name, it will receive a id which will be get current element dot id. Now these all are coming from this id placeholder and everything. It will receive a placeholder which will be get current element dot placeholder, and also it will receive, so let's pass this form data and set form data, right? So here what we can do simply, so now this will receive the get form data. In this functions will do get form data and get set. I think we don't need to pass this one. I think if we don't pass, then also it will work. So here what we can do simply, we'll pass the value. So what will be the value? Now see, if I go to login, see form data will have a name, this email and password, correct? And this email and password is nothing but the same name or ID that we have given here. See, name is email, name is password, and this is matching with email and password. So what we can do, we can simply do form data that will be receiving of this get current element dot name. So get current element dot name will be email, so we are basically passing that form data of email. For second one, it will be form data of password. Okay, and also you need to pass the on change. So on change will simply do, it will give a event. I think this we have already discussed. Then we will do set form data and we'll destructure the form data, and then what we can do, right, simply we will do event dot target dot value is equal to event dot target dot name equal to event dot target dot value. Okay, and at the end we are going to return this content. Awesome, right? We are getting email and password, the name and everything is working fine. I'll obviously again repeat because this might be a little confusing, this part. And if there is any default use case, that means if you are not passing any case, then also you are going to render input by default. So we'll copy this and will render the input only. So now see what will happen if I just go here and change this, let's say label from email to my name Sangam. Save it. See, this is getting changed to Sangam. So that means you no need to change in that place. That is a reusable component. You are changing the config, and based on that it will automatically create the input. And also you'll notice one thing is that if I go to login and then I log this login form data, this will also work. So I'll just log here login form data. Go to console. So you can see that email empty. So I'll type something here. See, email is getting updated. If I type on the password is getting updated. So from where this is working? So this is working nothing but from in this part. So you have a common form, right? So we are doing this logic here. So this is how you need to do. Now let's say we should have a button here also, because on click of this button we need to do certain things. So simply see how simple logic this is. So just now we'll take a button. So we'll take a div, take a style, let's do a margin top of 15px, 12px, and then we'll do a button. And here I'm going to just do, if we are getting a button text from a parent component as a prop, so we'll render that, or else we'll always show the type submit, and type will be always submit. Okay, now save it. So now we are getting some error. Okay, button text we need to pass as a prop. So we'll take the button text. So currently it is coming submit because we haven't passed. Now if I go to login, and here I'll pass button text. So let's say I want to show that instead of submit I'll show login. So I'll save it. So now this will basically change to login. Now next thing what we need to do, this form should also have an on submit, right? Because when you submit this login, you need to basically get these values. So it will also take an on submit method, and this will be handle submit. Now this also will be receiving from parent component, because you need to manage something from here, right? The reason is, let's say you are using this from login page and register page. So for login page you need to call a different API, for register page you need to call a different API. So that means you need to have the control in your parent component. So that means this handle on handle submit, let's keep on handle submit. So this will be receiving from props, and then you'll be passing it here. So we'll do on handle submit. This will be, will give the same name, on handle submit, and I'll create this method here. So do function on handle submit. This will give an event. Now what we need to do, see if I save it and let's say I'll type something here. So you can see the page is getting refreshed. Also one more thing that I'm noticing here, in the common form we need to pass the type, correct? So that is the reason it's not available, because if I type here password is not showing in the, so we'll pass a type here, and this will be get current element dot type. So now it's the password format. Do the same thing here. Let's do it here. Okay, so now we need to basically refresh the page refresh is happening, right? So that we have already discussed. We need to do event.prevent default, and then here we can do certain things. So let's say I want to pass this information in our database. So now if I go to inspect, go to console, type my email and password and do login, so you are getting the value here. Okay, now let's say you want to do another thing, like whenever you will submit this form, you need to reset this value. Now to reset the value, it is pretty simple. What you can do, right, you just need to make the email and password as empty. So it's always better you keep an initial state manageable. So we'll do initial state, and then I'll pass this email and password value here, and then instead of calling this from here, I'll call the initial state. Okay, and then once I'll submit, that means in the submit I'll do the API logic, and let's say you'll do some database logic, and then simply you'll do set form data. Set login form data will be initial state, or let's make this one initial form data. That means you're just resetting the value. So here you pass initial form data, save it. Now say if I do login, this value is getting resetted, correct? So this is how you need to do. Now let's say you need to implement the login register feature. Now I'm pretty sure you'll be able to do it. So what you need to do, first go to our index, then I will copy this, then instead of login I will do register from elements, and instead of name, email, password, this should have also name, person name. So it should have also name. So enter your name, label will be name, type will be text, and component type will be input. Okay, now see how it will be simple. So we'll go to our register page. So first what we'll do, first we'll take out initial state. So we'll do const initial state. So because this will have a name, also it will have an email, and also it will have a password. And here I will do const register form data, set register form data, and this will be use state of initial register form data. So I'll pass it here. Okay, now I'm going to call common form, and we'll pass form controls. So this will be register form controls, form data, which will be register form data, set form data, which will be set register form data. Also we'll pass a button text, and this will be, let's say, register. Save it. See, name, email, password I already got. Now you can also pass on submit, handle submit. So this will be, let's say, handle register on submit. Again the same process. So we'll do function handle register on submit. It will receive an event. So we'll do event dot prevent default, and then I'll just want to, let's say, log this register form data, and then I'll do set register form data, initial register form data, means I'm just resetting exact same code. Now you see, if I just go here, right, if I do my name and register, see, click on register, we got the value, all of this, and this form is getting resetted. Now you see, both are different, but we are not reusing or rewriting all of this again and again, right? Instead we created a common form. This common form is basically checking that what kind of component I need to render. If it's input, render the input. If it's a select, render a select. So that's a homework for you. So create two more elements. So basically here I created a common input, right? So you create a select and also create a text area, and then you will check here that if this form types dot select, then you render the select component. If it's a text area, you render the text area component. Okay, so this is how you can do. So I think that's all for this form section, and I think we have learned a lot of things, and I'm pretty sure this will basically clear a lot of concepts regarding that. Now in the next part, or basically in this section, we will do another very important thing, and that is custom hooks. So custom hooks is basically a concept that basically use to reuse your component logic, as simple as that. So custom hooks, there can be n number of custom hooks. So there I'll give some simple example. So now see, in normal application you will do some kind of API call, right? So in the API call, either you will use, what you will do, you will do a use effect, then you will do API call. Now let's say you need to do API call in 100 components. So what we can simply do, obviously we can use some third-party library package like React Query, use SWR, but we can create our own custom hook, right? And that, what advantage that will give? So that means if we create a custom hook, we will be able to reuse that particular logic in only one place, and then we can use that hook in all the places in our application. So that means we no need to write that API call 100 times in 100 components. So let's see how we are going to create our first custom hook, and that is called use fetch, and that is very popular and also one of the most asked interview questions.